This is CodeMarvelous with A&R Black Hats, and you're watching Deckbuilding Derezzed. So, today we're back after a long hiatus. It's been kind of a busy summer for me and my family. I apologize for not making a video in a while. Some interesting news. My wife and I went to PAX this August, so that was exciting. Ended up getting to get 3 of those lovely alt art lotus fields. They're pretty neat. I like them. In addition to that, the Icebreaker tournament at PAX was a ton of fun. I had a blast. I apologize to everybody that I was there that I had such a terrible flu at the time. I hope nobody else got sick. And it was just nice to get to meet a bunch of my internet friends that I had never really gotten a chance to meet before. So today on Deckbuilding Derezzed, the deck that we're going to be talking about is Sunny LeBeau. She's one of the new runners from Data and Destiny. She's independent. She's 50 card minimum and 25 influence, and she starts with 2 link. I really think she's going to be the breakout star of the 3 new runners from Data and Destiny, just because she just kind of works and her ability is just kind of always good. And there's a couple of cards that she has in her repertoire that make that possible that I'll discuss when we look at the deck. But today's deck just really focuses on efficiency, cheap runs, and kind of building inevitable pressure that makes it so that, kind of like an Andy deck in the mid to late game, Corp has no way to really project an agenda that goes into a remote and has to really over-dedicate ice to centrals in order to keep you out. So let's take a look at it and see what we have. So this Sunny LeBeau deck, which I'm calling Praise the Sun, takes advantage of her unique abilities to kind of build a inevitable, efficient kind of deck. She's a 50 card minimum deck runner. She has 25 influence, just like all of the Data and Destiny runners, and she starts with 2 link. The 2 link is really important because it turns things like Underworld Contact and the no memory cost for Cloudbreakers on without you having to install any additional cards. So these types of cloud and drip decks that we've been seeing people experiment for a while with are going to be ready to go right out of the gate with Sunny, instead of having to find that access to Global Sec or that Dyson mem chip or whatever source of link you're using like Forger to make them go. So in that vein, I want to start with her drip economy and her resources, because I think that's really what kind of makes this deck work. So I've focused really on clickless draw and drip econ as a way of slowly building pressure and freeing up my clicks for running and installing, which I'll explain later why that's important. One of the most important resources in this deck is Symmetrical Visage, which is the 2 cost resource that the first time you draw a card each turn you gain a click. So this is basically Professional Contacts, but it only works once and it doesn't cost any influence. So it helps me kind of pull through this 50 card deck actively when I need to make sure that I can find what I need. One of the most interesting sources of clickless draw is Drug Dealer. It's a 1 cost connection out of Criminal that splashes for 1 influence, and it states that when your turn begins you lose 1 credit, and then when the Corp turn begins you draw 1 card. It gives you a manageable dripping card draw. I usually only install 1, and a lot of times the 1 credit that you're going to lose is going to be offset by your various drip econ, or just the fact that you're going to be sitting on tons of money from not really spending money while you're running. So it's just a good card that slowly feeds the tools into your hand without you having to spend clicks drawing. The next source of passive draw that we have is 2 Earthrise Hotels, which are some of your career fair targets, which I'll explain later. And, you know, it's a 4 cost, it's a location, it's ritzy, it's neutral. You put 3 power counters on it, and every turn, at the beginning of your turn, you remove a power counter and you draw 2 cards. You know, when you're dealing with a 50 card deck, when you're dealing with a deck that has a lot of moving parts like this, you just need to be getting to the point where you're drawing a ton of cards. And what I'm creating here with these 3 sources of draw is that I could potentially be, during the Corp's turn and at the beginning of my turn, gaining a total of 3 cards, plus drawing another card and gaining a credit at the beginning of my turns for my first click, which means I'm getting 4 cards for 1 click essentially once the machine gets going, and getting to put down this rig very quickly. So in addition to our draw, we have the rest of our resources are focused around money. We have 3 daily casts. It's quite good in a deck with Drip Econ. It's another career fair target, and it just gives you that money to slowly build up that pressure to be able to threaten servers. We have 3 data foldings. Data foldings are kind of hard to fit into certain decks if you plan on using all of your MU. The nice thing is because of Sunny's 2-link, her breakers do not take up any memory, which means that you can install data folding with your full breaker rig installed, and they're going to go off, and you're going to be getting that passive credit always, which is a nice thing and a nice bit of extra economy. In addition to that, we also have Underworld Contacts, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Underworld Contacts work immediately because of Sunny's 2-link, and got rid of kind of their disadvantage that a lot of times in your Ian connection deck or your Andy connection deck or what have you, you couldn't turn these on until you found a source of link. So you'd be holding them, or you'd put them down, but they wouldn't be doing anything. So you draw one of these, they can get slapped immediately on the board, and it's going to start repaying itself immediately. So this is a lot of drip econ, which can lead to a predictable amount of econ that you could end up kind of slowing down and not being able to really pressure the way that you want. So we're backing up what we have here with 2 Katie Jones, which is the 2 cost, 1 click to put 3 credits on, 1 click to take all the credits off, and it gives you that burst econ that you need to kind of build up in the background so that when the corp really starts getting ready to run, you just drop all the money off of Katie and you're ready to really start putting on the pressure. So those are our resources, and that's really what I think is the core of what makes this deck efficient and effective. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is events that also back up the efficiency of the deck. We've got 3 sure gambles. I don't need to talk about why those are there. We have 3 career fairs, because career fair is just a really efficient card at making everything in this bottom row cheaper. Everything can be a good target for career fair. Obviously the best targets are the daily casts, data foldings, and earth rises, but honestly if it's late game and you draw one late, don't be afraid to use one on an Underworld Contact or a Katie Jones. The only card that's a resource that I wouldn't really consider a good use of career fair is Drug Dealer, but other than that I would say any of the cards in the back row are really a career fair target. In addition to that, we have 2 modded. Sunny's breakers are kind of expensive, so is her console, and so are the dice and mem chips that we're using to back up her rig. So modded just kind of helps get all that down cheaper and more efficiently, once again screwing with the corp's math so that they're going to have a harder time predicting what you're going to be able to threaten. I have 2 employee strikes, and man, this is the new current that's going to come out in Data and Destiny, and it's a 1 influence current. It's neutral, that says that the corpse identity text box is blank. So it's basically cerebral static for the runner, and it's just unreal how potent this card is. In my testing, if you can get this down early against a blue sun, they can't pull anything back for money, and that just completely screws their math and makes it so that they don't want to res ice. NEH counts on their draw for installing to, rush you out and, fast advance you out. Engineering the Future is really hurt by this. Personal Evolution is very hurt by this. RP, basically all of the really top tier corps that people like to play are going to be significantly impacted by Employee Strike. It's just a fun card that, since we're playing kind of a slower build deck that takes a long time to set up, Employee Strike gives you that breathing room in the early to mid game that you need in order to set up and start to threaten. We also have 2 special orders. Once again, we're dealing with a larger 50 card deck size, and we're only running 2 of all of our breakers. So these basically act as additional copies of whatever breaker we're having the misfortune of not finding. So that's our events. Hardware is where we see a lot of Data and Destiny as well. We have 3 dice and mem chips. I usually don't install all 3 of them, but I suppose you could if you're really ahead. It's +1 memory, +1 link for 3 cost. It feeds into both your link for your security chips, which I'll discuss later, and also your ability to beat traces, but also it gives you memory, so as you start installing some of your support programs, which I'm going to go over later, you're not interfering with Data Folding's ability to give you money. We have 3 Dice and Mem chips. We have 2 Security Nexus, which is another new card, and it's an 8 cost console, so it costs the same amount as Toolbox. It's 1 memory and 1 link, so it's kind of good from that perspective. But the neat thing about this is once per turn when you encounter a piece of ice, you can force the corp to do a trace 5, and if they succeed, they give you 1 tag and the run ends, which is bad for you. But if they don't succeed, and if you beat the trace, the runner bypasses the currently countered piece of ice. So this can get really, really neat, because what can happen is if you're economically ahead of the corp, and you've got this in play and you've got the dice and mem chips down, you have an effective link of 6. So then the corp is going to have to pay at least 1 credit just to get you to encounter a piece of ice. Like, for example, some of the big ticket ones like Curtain Wall, you can force them to pay to basically stop you. So you can take some of those big cost toll booth, Curtain Wall, Wormhole. You can use this console to help you bypass those. So the other piece of hardware that we have is 3 security chips, which are also from Data and Destiny. They're a 0 cost piece of hardware that states that you can trash it to choose an icebreaker or any number of cloud icebreakers, which we're only using cloud icebreakers. Each icebreaker has +1 strength for each link that you have for the remainder of this run. So this, and it can only be used during the run. This card is so potent in this deck because if you're running, let's say, 4 or 5 link, then when you're running that remote and they've done their mental math on whether or not you have enough money to get in, they're going to have to account the fact that all of these breakers could potentially be starting that run at strength 6. For the entire run, strength 6. And that's incredibly efficient. So when you have that power run that you need to make, security chip, and you're going to have 3 of them, is going to enable you to jack up your cloud breakers so that they can get in there as efficiently as possible, making it so that you're constantly building money instead of really spending lots of money. This is your, I'm playing against Glacier and they're trying to create a scoring window defense, because you can just jack up all of your breakers to match the strength. So as far as programs are concerned, we're going to start with her new breakers, which are all from Data and Destiny. As our fractor, we have 2 of the Sherman, which is a 3 cost, so it's not very expensive. It starts at strength 1. It's a cloud breaker, so it takes up no memory if you have at least 2 link, which you have from the beginning of the game. And it's 2 to break any number of barrier subroutines, so it breaks Curtain Wall, Hive pretty efficiently. Other things you can kind of get screwed a little bit, like single subroutine, barriers. You're going to be paying a little bit more. And then you have a 2 credit for 3 strength comparison, which it basically is a little inefficient there. But we're going to make it up in other ways. We have the Dripicon, we have the security chips. We can use Security Nexus to bypass some of these things that we don't want to spend money breaking. Our killer is Shrike, which is a 5 cost to install cloud breaker again. Starts at strength 1, +2 credits for 3 strength, and +2 to break any number of sentry subroutines. This is amazing against Archer, amazing against Kamainu, and a lot of the other multi-subroutine sentries that people are currently using to really try to tax and surprise people with. It's great against Ichi. I like it anyway against Ichi. And it's just a good killer, even if it is a little expensive to install. As our Code Gate Breaker, even though I know people are going to get mad that I didn't waste 2 of my influence on Zul, which could be considered more efficient here, I have the 4 cost Striker. Code Gate Breaker once again starts at strength 1. It's cloud. 2 to pump for 3, and 2 to break all Code Gate subroutines. A lot of your passive credits are going to end up being used for this breaker because, some of the math on certain code gates gets a little weird with that breaker. So I like these. They don't take up memory. You're going to be sitting on lots of money because of your Drip Econ. You're going to have the Katie Jones cash. You just need to be judicious. And what you should be seeing from the strengths and weaknesses of these breakers is that Sunny is going to be kind of like Kit in that she's going to make one really impactful run or two maybe per turn, and that's kind of how you keep the efficiency up in the deck and make it so that you constantly have money building up in the background, so that in that later game turn when you need to make 3 runs, you can. The way that you do that is in the early game, take your turn slow, think about what you're doing, and make that one impactful run per turn that you need to do to keep the pressure on. Support programs. We do have 6 support programs. We're going to start with the newest one. We have Multi-Threader, which is a 3 cost. It's one of Adam's programs, so it splashes for 1 influence from the other neutral faction. It's 3 cost, 1 memory, which is why we have the dice and mem chips, and it gives you 2 recurring credits for using programs. So in addition to all the drip econ, we have 2 credits to either boost or use one of these breakers every turn. If you have both of them down, in addition to whatever drip econ you have 4 credits to use these breakers every turn, which can end up making this rig very, very efficient. In addition to that, we have 2 data suckers, because one of the weirdest things about these breakers is their math at getting to the certain strengths of certain ice. For example, if you're rocking 2 data suckers and they've got some counters on them, you might not even have to boost one of these at all. Or if you're trying to break Toll Booth, you can drop it by 1, use 2 credits, and then 2 credits to break. And it's going to be more efficient, and it's going to reduce the amount of money that you actually have to spend to break. And then we have 3 cost medium. We have 2 of them. And originally I had R&D interfaces and HQ interfaces in this deck. But after some testing, I realized since I'm making 1 really impactful run a turn, I felt that one of the best ways to really make it so that the corp had to react to what I was doing instead of just rushing out agendas or trying to rush out before I got set up was running medium. Because if I can get 1 or 2 of these down and I make that 1 extremely cheap run on R&D every turn, if they don't deal with me, if they don't purge, if they don't pile ice, I'm just going to keep hammering R&D and seeing more and more cards and winning the game. So for those of you who don't know, medium is a 3 cost virus out of Anarch that gets a virus counter on it every time you successfully run R&D. So each counter after the first one equates to an additional card scene when accessing R&D during a run. So, first run you see 1 card, second run you see 2 cards, third run you see 3 cards, on and on and on. So it gives you purge pressure while also just slowly giving you more return for your incredibly inexpensive runs. So this is the basic core of the deck. It's draw as fast as you can, be good with your money, make that 1 impactful run, and always, always try to get Katie down fast and make sure you pile money on her. And just, treat it kind of like an Andy deck, where you're just trying to get set up, run efficiently, and keep pressure on all of the servers. The other thing that I would say is as long as you have an economic advantage and it's not going to stall you out, trash every single asset that you see. Try to stall out the corp's money as much as you can by trashing assets. This is the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. You can find the A&R Black Hats on Facebook, or you can find me on Twitter as CodeMarvelous and at my blog, selfmodifyingcode.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and give me some feedback about this deck, what you've done with Sunny, and honestly, what you've done with the other runners from Data and Destiny. I'm really curious to see what the community has come up with Adam and Apex. I'm still working on them, trying to be a mad scientist and breaking that code on the 2 of them, and I'm having kind of a hard time, so I'd love to see what other people are thinking. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.